Good afternoon and welcome back to Football League World TV. It's our second show of the day, and this time we are taking a look at Norwich City, and Dean Smith's role in particular is, of course, Christmas time, but there isn't much festive cheer right now at Carrow Road. My name is Sam Rourke, the Chief Editor of Football League World. I'm joined by Marcus Ali to run through all things Canaries this afternoon. Marcus, how are you getting on, mate?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Norwich has been a real roller coaster follow in the last few seasons. Some things I've liked a lot, some maybe not so much. But no, glad to be on for today's show.
Good stuff. If you are watching this, whether it be on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, please do get yourself in the live chat. Send in your comments. Norwich fans, we want to hear from you. What do you make of Dean Smith in charge of your club? Do you think he should be sacked? That is the main question we're asking on this show this afternoon. Should Norwich City sack Dean Smith? Right, let's get straight into the show. Right, I think it's fair to say, Marcus, that Dean Smith is under considerable pressure at Carrow Road right now. There are very high expectations at Norwich City, given their recent successes in the EFL. They are, of course, fifth in the Sky Bet Championship table, which is quite remarkable to be talking about a manager that might be on the brink when they're in the playoffs. But that goes to show, the expectations that are put upon managers at Norwich right now. Marcus, let's ask this question first. Is this sort of scrutiny and heightened pressure that Dean Smith is receiving right now fair in your eyes?
I think it is fair, yeah. Just 3 wins in 12 in the Championship now for the Canaries, and the way we've kind of seen the division shape up this season, there's such small gaps between the playoffs and almost lower mid table. So there's a fear that if you fall out of the playoffs within the space of a few weeks, you could fall much further than that. So I think you've almost got to take lead position out of it and not focus on that too much, because the gap between Norwich and slipping into mid-table is a lot closer than maybe it would be typically at this stage of the season. If you're sitting in fifth position, I think going in as bookies' favourites to win the league title maybe dictates people's expectations a little bit. The way that Norwich fell out of the Premier League last season, not completely dissimilar to the way that they did in 2019-20 as well. I think that kind of losing mentality and the amount of defeats that they suffered is going to sort of drag on at some point. I'm not sure it was sustainable for them to win promotion straight back to the division once again, at least in the style that they had previously. So yeah, right now I think that the pressure is definitely justified, and I think the way the league table is and fans' fears that they could maybe fall out of contention for the top six rather than just slip out of it momentarily, probably leads into why there is such concern at Carrow Road.
Yeah, Norwich 9 points adrift of second place Sheffield United right now. So there is a sort of gap building between the top two and the chasing pack right now. It does seem at this stage of the season that the playoffs is Norwich City's best bet of getting promotion. Automatics already look quite a distant sort of feat. Norwich fans, just a reminder, get yourself in the comments. Do you agree with Marcus's judgment there that the scrutiny on Dean Smith is fair right now? It does feel like he could be a manager very much on the brink. Marcus, let's talk then about the expectations at Norwich City. They've achieved promotion as champions a handful of times now from the Championship. However, their tenure and time in the Premier League hasn't always been that long. Do you think that success that they've had under Daniel Farke in recent seasons has sort of just heightened the expectations at Norwich City and ultimately made it a much harder job for Dean Smith in the first place?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important to look back on that when trying to judge the job that Smith has done. I think the style that Farker won those league titles as well almost pays into it and sort of caused more scrutiny on the job that Smith is doing. I do think Farker had a better squad when he was in the Championship, particularly in 2020-21, compared to what Smith has at his disposal right now. But yeah, naturally, after the last two seasons before this one, with Norwich in the Championship going so to plan, really, it's no surprise that naturally you are going to take some things for granted. And yeah, expectations are going to be heightened as a result. So yeah, it was a difficult job to step into from Smith's point of view, given what went before him, definitely.
So Norwich's last game in the Championship was a defeat at home to Blackburn Rovers, a 2-0 defeat. Incredible amount of boos at full time, a really, really toxic atmosphere at Carrow Road during that particular match. Quite interesting comments from Dean Smith after the game, sort of suggesting that he's quite happy that Norwich are playing away in their next game to get away from the sort of vociferous Carrow Road toxic atmosphere, I suppose. What did you make of them comments, Marcus? Because it seems like he is a man that knows he's under pressure, knows he's getting intense pressure from the fans. What did you make of the comments? Because they were a little bit, well, they were interesting, weren't they? A little bit different. You don't tend to expect a manager to come out with words like that.
Yeah, I appreciate that he's been backed into a corner a little bit, but I definitely think words like that should be kept to himself. It's only going to turn more fans against him. Saying that you're glad that they're playing away from home in front of less Norwich fans almost suggests that you're suggesting that the home support is making the team play worse, which is just not the right way to go down when there's already such little popularity for him amongst the fan base. Yeah, he's feeling the pressure and he's lashed out as a result of that. Obviously, I understand that it is tough. Their emotions are always running high when managers do interviews like this after matches. But yeah, that's definitely one on reflection that I think he'll regret. There would have been some sort of optimists in the supporter base that were still looking to the positives about Dean Smith's reign so far at Norwich and their performances this season. But comments like that, are definitely going to rub fans up the wrong way and probably would have turned the majority of the remaining Smith supporters in the Norwich fan base away from him.
Yeah, Canaries fans, get yourself in the comments. What did you make of Dean Smith's comments on the weekend after that defeat to Blackburn? Certainly, I'd imagine would have riled up a few Canaries on the weekend. Right, let's touch on Norwich City's home form. 12 games in the league played in the Championship at Carrow Road. 5 defeats so far. It's sort of been a bit of a bedrock for Norwich over the last few seasons, just how important their sort of home form is. Often quite a formidable force at home in recent seasons gone by, excluding the Premier League season, of course. What have you made of their home form this season? 5 defeats. You compare that to someone like Burnley, who are yet to taste defeat at home this term. What do you make of the home form for Norwich? And it must, I'd imagine, be an ingredient in adding to the sort of fuel of fury from the Norwich fans.
Yeah, definitely. A manager is going to be judged more on performances at home, just from the nature of the fact that more supporters are going to be watching those games in greater detail. It is only marginally worse than their away form, but obviously you expect to pick up more points at home. So yeah, the Carrow Road atmosphere isn't quite having the desired impact on the pitch at the moment. It's interesting to note that they have scored sort of comfortably more goals at home than they have on the road, just their rear guard caving in a little bit too often and meaning that they haven't been able to pick up as many points. But yeah, it's been disappointing. I think the slow start to the season sort of didn't help that. It felt like Smith was almost fighting against the tide before he'd really got into sort of the second month of the season almost. So tricky to measure how much that's to do with Smith or just teams coming to Carrow Road knowing they're favourites. They were favourites at least to win the league title in pre-season and raising their game. But yeah, it's disappointing in an area that maybe if they perform it as they would have expected, then they'd be a lot much closer to Sheffield United at the top of the table and potentially conversations about Smith's future quieten down. So yeah, it'll definitely be something that they'll be looking to work on. But yeah, as we touched on, when Smith is talking like that, it's maybe not going to be one that's going to turn very soon.
Yeah, one argument that a lot of the Dean Smith out brigade seem to be bringing up recently is the style of play that Dean Smith is trying to implement at Norwich City. A lot of them saying that there isn't necessarily a clear identity, a clear style of play. Patterns of play seem quite sort of different. They differentiate quite a lot, which is somewhat weird given what we know about Dean Smith and how he used to play football at Walsall when he was in charge of Brentford as well. It was very much on the front foot, attacking football at high intensity. There doesn't seem to be that at the moment at Norwich City. What do you make of the style of play at Norwich? Because there just doesn't seem to be one right now, does there?
Yeah, I think you've got to look at the circumstances and why maybe Smith strayed away from things that we've seen before. Obviously, last season it was a firefighter job pretty much as soon as he stepped into the role. So you can maybe understand why a manager will put their philosophy to one side and try and prioritise points on a short-term basis. And then I think in the summer, maybe he didn't quite get the players that he wanted in the summer transfer window. And I also think that injuries haven't helped. There's a lot of key players have been in and out at times. He hasn't really had a settled side to go with at times. Even when they did have that positive run, he was sort of chopping and changing the forward line with Josh Sargent and Pookie, and then them both together. So yeah, I think that does pay into it because you need to build those relationships on the pitch. But yeah, we haven't quite seen the values that we saw from Smith at Brentford and Villa, certainly. I don't see a reason why that can't be achieved in time, but it's whether he'll be afforded that time in the first place. So yeah, it is a little bit puzzling. But I think he's kind of had to adjust to the state of the league table really in a lot of his time at Norwich, and that's sort of seen implementing a style fall down the priority list maybe.
Yeah, any Canaries fans watching this, let us know your thoughts on the style of play that Dean Smith is trying to adopt at Carrow Road. Do you think there is one? Let us know in the comments. I think it's fair to say that Norwich have a pretty capable squad when it comes to the second tier. You know, there are players in that squad that have played at the highest level in the Premier League, players that know what the Championship is all about, but arguably aren't sort of producing performances we're used to. Matt Jarvis recently said on the EFL Highlights show that Norwich are missing an Emi Buendia type of player, someone that could sort of be that link between midfield and attack, create opportunities for the likes of Pookie, for the likes of Josh Sargent. Would you agree with that? Do you think that's something that Norwich are lacking right now, that element of creativity and someone that can be a live wire and make things happen?
Definitely agree. It was always going to be really tough to replace someone like Emi Buendia. Obviously, it would have been easier last summer when Norwich had a little bit more in the transfer kitty potentially. But yeah, any club at this level is going to really miss a player like that. You could look at the type of players that they've signed. The likes of Gabriel Sara and Marcelino Nunes in the summer. Nunes in particular has shown a lot of promise, but doesn't seem to be the same type of player. Maybe not doesn't play as advanced as we saw Buendia do in the Championship. But I think he's probably not the only player that they're missing compared to sort of previous seasons. I think he's still in the squad, but the Todd Cantwell of old, there seems to be a regression there. I think that's the type of player that could maybe step up and replace a bit of the creativity that Buendia did provide. Yeah, I'm not really sure what the future holds for him at Norwich City. And there's another few players. Mario Vrancic was very important the last time that they won the league. Obviously, knocking on a little bit now, probably not able to produce those levels anymore, but was a player that played in a similar area to Buendia and giving that creative role in the side, who's no longer there. So, yeah, I think there's a few things to point out as to why they're not creating chances with as much freedom as they did in previous seasons. But yeah, Buendia, of course, is the standout departure in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. You get the impression it might be an area they're going to look to enhance in the January transfer window. Whilst you're here, Norwich fans, let us know in the comments what you'd like to see added in the January transfer window. Are there any areas of the pitch that need bolstering in particular? Please do let us know. So as we speak right now, Marcus, Dean Smith is still in charge of Norwich City. There are no concrete links that suggest he will be removed from his position at Carrow Road, but there is intense pressure, as we've already said on this show. Are there any? Is there any other managers out there, Marcus, that you feel could potentially be an upgrade on Dean Smith right now? Because there is such a clamour for him to be ousted from his position. There has to be, a second plan in people's minds if he was to go. Is there anyone right now that's available, or maybe is it at another club that you feel could make a difference and sort of rejuvenate Norwich's fortunes heading into the new year?
To be honest, I am struggling. Looking out of work managers, I think ones with recent promotions on their CV, Scott Parker and Chris Wilder stand out. I think they're managers that would probably have higher transfer demands than Norwich could deliver them. I could see that potentially being a stumbling block if they were to look for one of those. Do they go back to the sort of German background coach like the Daniel Farker appointment? Ralph Hasenhüttl is Austrian, but from a German background and a background in German football, and he's out of work since leaving Southampton. But again, I don't really think that that's potentially someone they would look to bring in due to the wages that he would command. I think Kieran McKenna would be a great appointment if he wasn't currently managing Ipswich Town. That probably makes that sort of going and plucking someone out of League One more unlikely. But yeah, I do struggle to see a standout name. And I think maybe a lack of continuity in the style of play from Farker to Dean Smith makes it a little bit more harder to second guess which way Norwich would like to go, because they're not sort of taking the same approach as they were before Smith entered the building. So yeah, there's not a standout name for me, although they could, of course, go back down that German route and probably pick someone that I don't know too much about anyway.
Wow, Kieran McKenna to Norwich. That would certainly ruffle a few feathers if that came to fruition. Let us know in the comments, Norwich fans. Is there anyone out there that you feel could be an upgrade on Dean Smith right now? Russell Martin's name continues to be linked with the job at Carrow Road. He seems fairly settled at Swansea City right now. Okay, we're going to get an answer then on this main talking point of today's debate here on Football League World TV. The main question we're asking on this particular show is, should Norwich City sack Dean Smith? Marcus, let's get your thoughts on that question.
Yeah, I was to and fro on this, to be honest, and I think I've ended up on yes, but maybe in a few weeks to give him a tiny bit longer. I think it would be a little bit harsh if they did it right now. I think maybe he deserves another couple of games to try and show some signs that they are going to turn things around. I think there should be a replacement lined up if they were to make a decision, just to show some clear direction into where they want to go from here. But yeah, given the scale of the fan base turning, if a manager can get sacked for making bad comments about those above him, he definitely should for making them about the fans. So yeah, that they seem unanimously in favour for a change. So yeah, I think if things don't change in maybe the next fortnight or even less, then a decision should be made. It looks like a squad that needs some fresh ideas. So yeah, maybe not right now, but if it doesn't change very quickly, then yeah, I am in favour in Norwich changing manager.
Yeah, you certainly get the feeling that the next fixture or two for Dean Smith are going to be incredibly crucial for his current tenure at Norwich City. Right, there we go. Marcus saying that Dean Smith should be sacked. Not right now, maybe in a few weeks' time. Let us know your thoughts on the comments about our particular question today. Should Norwich sack Dean Smith? We really do want to get your thoughts. Right, well, that's it from myself and Marcus this afternoon here on FLW TV. Marcus, thanks as ever for joining me on this show today. Thanks to everyone that tuned in to watch this. If you haven't already, please do like this video on YouTube and subscribe to Football League World TV on YouTube. We are verging on 1,500 subscribers now, so every new subscriber we really, really do appreciate. But from myself and Marcus, we shall see you next time.